Please take a seat. The show will begin in just a moment. Please take a seat. The show will begin in just a moment.
Hey, how we doing, everybody? How's everybody over here? You good? How about in the middle? Yeah, all right. Welcome to Axios House at the RPM events right on the beautiful Chicago River for the Democratic National Convention. Let me hear you. There we go. How about the people outside? No, they're not paying attention. All right, how's everybody? I am Justin Kaufman from Axios Chicago. Thank you. How many people have subscribed to the Axios Chicago newsletter? Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Louder, louder. We are so happy to be here. This is our sort of official party. This is Chicago's party. The Axios House has been here for the last 2 days doing incredible events, but tonight, this is ours. So I appreciate you being here and coming to support us. I want to introduce the team. Is that cool? All right, ladies and gentlemen, one of our reporters, she comes all the way from, where are you at now? You're over on Rush Street. Ladies and gentlemen, Carrie Shepard. Give it up for Carrie. All right. You guys follow Instagram, Axios Chicago on Instagram? Yeah, oh, that's got to get a little bit better. Axios Chicago on Instagram. We do giveaways. Ladies and gentlemen, you know her, our social media host, Moyo. Get out here, Moyo. There we go. All right, and now for Michael Jordan. Are we ready? Ladies and gentlemen, the reason you're here, are you ready? She is a 4 or 5-time... 6-time star. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Monica Ang. There she is. All right. All right, this is the Axios Chicago crew. I wanted to just get everyone to get faced. You guys know us. You read, so thank you so much for doing so. We got a great program tonight. Coming up here in just a couple minutes, Bill Daley is here. You guys remember Bill Daley, of course, the former chief of staff of the White House under Obama, Commerce Secretary all the way. Bill Daley, come on. How about it? Also, the governor of New York is here. We got so many great stars in the house, and we're going to start this program. Yeah, Les in the back. Good to see you, buddy. All right. Again, subscribe to Axios Chicago if you don't already, our newsletter. And you know what? Thanks again to Axios for coming here for Axios House. Mike Allen and Sarah Goode. And all the great people that are a big part of why you like Axios in the first place. They're in the room, so check them out, talk to them. Everybody's here. I want to get us started, so can we do that? Let's do that. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. I'm going to bring up our first guest, who is one of Axios' rock stars. She's a senior contributor with the place. She's been there from pretty much the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Margaret Talev. Margaret!
Hey everybody, what an awesome turnout. Please save a drink for me over in the bar. I am Margaret Talev. I am a senior contributor at Axios, and because we have a very full schedule, without further ado, I would like to bring to the stage a big important voice, rising star in the Democratic Party, New York's Governor, Kathy Hochul.
Margaret, thank you, everybody. Hello, Chicago. All right, we're having some fun here, right?
So I promise.
I'm off duty. I'm having a great time.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a
rock
great
and roll.
city.
You're never off duty, though, because God only knows something could happen. So two things as we get started. Number one, your daughter is joining us in the audience today, so I don't want to call you out too much, but that's great.
She's the chairperson of the support group for children of politicians. I've been elected official since she was 4 years old. Almost, 4 years old. Can you imagine doing that to a child? She better not write the book till I'm gone.
Yeah, she's still standing. The other reason that we wanted to get started quickly is because you actually have a fairly important role pretty soon. What is it that you're going to be doing after you leave here and go to the convention floor?
Well, it might be a secret, so I hope nobody divulges the fact that I'm about to say around 6:30 or 7 p.m. On behalf of the great state of New York, I'm going to cast 298 ballots for Kamala Harris. Just don't let anybody know that's kind of a secret.
Just whisper in my ear, just between you and me. So, and one more thing, fair warning, Governor Hochul, you are an alum of Syracuse University. There are also some students here today.
Go Orange, there we go.
So be careful, they may try to corner you, I hope, for questions, journalism students covering the DNC here today. Let's start in the obvious place. You are New York's first female governor. You
took a while.
You began as lieutenant governor and unexpectedly found yourself in a role perhaps sooner than you thought you would end up, then had to do it again yourself to make it official. Do you have some wisdom for Vice President Harris from those experiences? And I also want to ask you, You have had a saying that says, "I didn't come here to make history, I came to make a difference." Do you see her also adopting that approach when it comes to gender and how much to lean into that?
Indeed, I do. I don't see them leaning into the theme of "I'm going to be the first" for the campaign. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, she has the credentials, male or female, that says she's ready for this job. So let's just get that out there right now. And I think there's a lot of people who will be excited about, oh my gosh, this is the first, and little girls will know there's no more barriers. There's a whole great story around that. But don't overlook the fact that she has been a prosecutor, district attorney in a major American city. She was the attorney general for the largest state in this country. She served in the United States Senate. She served as vice president for 3.5 years. So I think that's a damn good resume, no matter whether it's a male or female. So let's not take away from her that experience. And has coming up in the same kind of role, a little bit different, but I was in local government, county government, member of Congress. Lieutenant governor prepared me to be able to step in on day one. That's what a lieutenant governor does. That's what a vice president does. You are prepared because the job requires that. So she's ready, and to see her just step into the limelight and own it like I had to do, you can't hesitate because there's always sharks swirling around you in this business, right? They smell blood, they're coming after you. So you have to be tough. You have to say, I'm going for it. I had to say I was running for election the day after I was sworn in as governor because people said, well, maybe she's a placeholder. Maybe there'll be somebody else. Kamala did the right thing. First day, I'm going for this. Don't question that. That's the power that she seized, and that's the advice I would have given her, but she already did it. So she's doing great. She doesn't need my advice. She's rocking this.
New Yorkers know a little bit more about your personal story. Chicago might not. Maybe they do. America is learning. You're a college graduate and a law school graduate, but you come from working class roots. There was a time when your family lived in a trailer. Your father worked at a steel plant. How much do you remember about that time in your childhood? And should the Democratic Party be courting more people with backgrounds like yours or Tim Walz's to counter what has been a pretty successful incursion into the working class territory, at least among white male voters, by the Republican Party?
I don't think we ever left it. I really do not. I think there's always been Democrats who understand it's in our DNA to help those who are struggling, whether they're families or people in a workplace, or they're being abused by the employers, or the rights of women that have been trampled on throughout history. So I don't think this is a new space for us. I really don't. But what I want to get back to is you talk about my family history. It goes back even further. My grandparents met in Chicago. And there you go. They came over from the same area but not knowing each other from a tiny place in Ireland, County Kerry. Anybody from County Kerry here? All right. All right. The reason there's so many people from County Kerry, grandparents in this country, it was the poorest place in the entire country. So many had to leave with nothing. My grandparents did that. Grandpa was a migrant farm worker in South Dakota. They came here, and Grandma and Grandpa met and got married, and were both domestic servants in here in Chicago. And they only left because they heard there were great jobs in the promised land of Buffalo, New York, where Grandpa worked at the steel plant where my dad worked. My parents started in a trailer park, but they outgrew it when my brother was there. They were pregnant with me, and they just couldn't fit me. So I didn't live in the trailer park, full disclosure, but my family and my parents and brother had lived there. I was born in a little place really close to the steel plant as well. But you don't lose that. I still go back to that trailer park. When I'm in Buffalo, I go back to that trailer park in Lackawanna, New York. I go to the local diner. I let people know that I've not forgotten them. And that's the power that we have in elected office. That's the power that the Democratic Party should be using. We don't forget people like that. Donald Trump can't say he won't forget them because he never knew them. He never went to that trailer park. He never understood the struggles of Americans who just wanted a shot to get ahead, a chance to get an education. My high school education, my public education, helped me get where I am today. It's the American dream that I've lived, and I want to make sure it's there for others. So Democrats are leaning into that. We are talking about the struggles of finding affordable child care. We're talking about the challenges that families are facing. And let's talk about what's happening to our teenagers. Social media and the addictive algorithms that are pulling our kids into a dark place. We have depression like the likes we've never seen before in our teenage children. So these are issues we should talk about. They're family issues. Republicans don't own the issue of being pro-family. We do. That's our story. And we're going to keep fighting for that.
You mentioned the Republicans.
Did I say Republicans?
Yeah, once or twice.
Oh, don't get... I had my red meat last night. I was kind of fired up.
You were rhyming and jiving, yeah.
Yeah, I heard Donald Trump didn't like that. Kind of mentioned that today in his speech, but hey, if it can't take it...
Then get out of New York. Yeah,
Go to Florida. Okay, I told you, stay down there.
Okay, so you are obviously very interested and actively involved in an effort to try to flip control of Congress back to the Democratic Party. 2022 was a bit of a red wave in New York. I'm wondering if you think Long Island has just gone full Trump for good or is reversible, and why you are confident that the path to Democratic resurgence goes through New York. Why do you think that's so?
Because it does. It truly does, and it's all about the numbers. We lost some seats we never should have lost in 2022. Every race is unique. You cannot take a broad brush and say, that maybe somebody like DCCC should have vetted George Santos. How the hell did he get elected in the first place? So a little bit of a failure of vetting right there. Just want to say that. But also, we had Sean Patrick Maloney, the head of the DCCC, lose his race on the issue of bail and TV ads that run against him because of things he had said. So every race was unique. But the Republicans successfully weaponized crime against Democrats fairly universally. And here's the deal. Gee, I just sound like Joe Biden. He says it all the time, doesn't he? That'll be part of the Joe Biden lexicon. Here's the deal. Long Island suburbs feed into New York City, right? The media market is driven by a few publications. You may have heard of one little one called the New York Post. They have an outsized influence in people's psychology around what's going on, for good or for worse. Crime was a heavily featured issue that year by the New York Post and other publications. So that fed this idea that, my gosh, I'm going to get murdered walking out of my front door. The subways are just a hellhole, and it's devastating, and all these horrible things are going to happen. That started changing how people felt about their own security. The numbers were going up at the time. Crime was going up because of the pandemic, but they've now come down dramatically. That issue is not there for them to weaponize on Long Island again. That is off the table if they're going to be honest about how this is being portrayed. We've also spent a lot of time organizing on Long Island. I took what was a shadow of a Democratic Party, which always should have been a powerhouse. This is New York State. But people took for granted that Democrats will always get elected, so why do you have to fight? Why do you organize? Why do you have to pay attention? It was really an appendage of the governor's own reelection every 4 years, whereas I knew, as someone who had been elected to every level of government, the state party could help people get elected to their town council and their county legislature and build the farm team that you need to be able to have good vetted candidates for higher up. Yep. So I've turned that around. I'm raising money.
How many seats total do you think are flippable with these efforts? Pull them together?
Ideally 6. I'll settle for 4. And I already picked up one. Tom Suozzi. I'm putting that in my win column right there. There's a whole history on that. I'm not going to go into it right now, but he challenged me for governor. Look it up. I don't want to go through it.
Look it up.
But I believe in forgiveness and redemption, so I was able to open the door to him to be able to successfully run. I'll just leave it that way, okay?
One question before the buzzer sounds. A question for my people in central New York and some other places around the country. We had the UAW's Sean Fain here earlier today, so talking about unions. Do you believe that U.S. chip factories, including Micron's, with the big investment in Syracuse, should be unionized? Why or why not?
They are going to be union workers building them over the next 20 years. We are going to have 50,000 jobs in central New York, Syracuse, where I spent 4 years of my life loving Syracuse University. Go Orange. And I'll say this. That is not happening anywhere else in the country. It's not happening anywhere in the world. But it's happening in New York because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made that a priority. Help me deliver this for the state of New York. I had to come up with $10 billion in incentives to land $100 billion in business. I'll do that any day of the week to create all those jobs. The unions in central New York are thrilled, absolutely thrilled, with the opportunity that someone not even born today can go to work building the 20-year build-out of the 4 fabs that's happening. So
unions will build those factories should unions be embedded in the employment long term.
That'll be up to the workers. I mean, if there's an initiative to organize and they want to do that, that's always up to the workers. But all I know is I made sure there were union jobs to build this for 20 years, and those are good-paying jobs that were not there before.
Governor Hochul, any parting words for the convention, for Kamala Harris, or perhaps for Beyonce before we leave the stage today?
I just want to say, Chicago, you rock. This city is on fire. The energy, it looks gorgeous out there. Thank you for the great weather. People just walking around smiling. Guess what? Democrats are joyful again, starting right here in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Governor Hochul, and I turn this show back to Justin.
Go Orange. Go Orange.
All right. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, give it up for Margaret and the governor. All right. We've got some reserved seats up here. And you know how I feel on Chicago about reserved seats. If anybody wants them, come get them. I'm taking them down. Come on. The Landed twins are going to do it. Come on. Come down. Grab them. Thank you. How about that? Good job. We got them all. I appreciate it. Makes us our guests feel special. All right. How we all feeling? Good? All right, I'm going to ask some of the people in the back who are getting the free food. The only thing I ask for the free food is just keep it down just a tad. You can eat that chicken parm a little bit quieter. All right, here is a great for Chicago, and I know you guys will be quiet and focused for my next guest because we're going to talk Chicago now. It was fun to talk New York for a second, but let's talk Chicago. The former Commerce Secretary, the White House Chief of Staff under Obama, the heads of several banks in his career, a former mayoral and gubernatorial candidate, one of the members of the royal family of Chicago. Give it up for Mr. Bill Daley. Yes. Mr. Chicago, good to see you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. If you're not from Chicago, welcome. Our weather is like this all year round. So.
How are you enjoying the Democratic National Convention?
It's great. I mean, the first day was spectacular. The city looks great because it is great. And people are enjoying themselves, and people feel good about what we're trying to accomplish here, and that is get a presidential candidate that has a good chance of changing America.
The last time there was a Democratic National Convention in Chicago was 1996.
Yep.
You and your brother, who was the mayor at the time, were a big part of bringing it here. And do you remember those days? I mean,
Sure.
What can you say about that versus what's happening today in 2024?
You know, there's a lot of similarities, to be frank with you. The city was in good shape. Our politics was good. We have a strong governor in Illinois, for those of you who don't know it, who has really done a great job. We want to showcase Chicago. The world comes to these conventions, and with the excitement, political excitement around it, that just adds to the attention. So I think people are really feeling good. We're showing the best of Chicago, and at the same time, it's a serious convention about nominating someone that's going to change America.
You wanted to be mayor, and you know very well, I'm sure, from Sunday night dinners and things like that about what it takes to be a mayor. I mean, things can go right. Obviously, you're seeing a tremendous crowd here, and Chicago looks amazing. But there's also infrastructure issues. You've got things going on how you actually make the city still work when you have a convention like that. I mean, as someone who has been in leadership positions, that is a risk for a city to take on a convention like this.
Let me just tell you, first of all, there aren't many cities that can handle a convention this size. and they're getting fewer and fewer. We have tremendous hotels in the central area. You don't have to go miles. Some cities I've been to for conventions, delegations are saying 30 miles away. It's logistically very difficult. Obviously, in a big city, the normal life of the city's got to go on while these big events are happening. So we have to balance the two, make sure that the citizens of Chicago have the police protection, fire protection, all the services that they need. At the same time, you have an enormous strain on all those things because of the security needs and the emergency needs, and just making sure that the transportation needs of the delegates and the thousands of people are here get satisfied. At the same time, the people of Chicago who live here, pay the taxes, go to work, that they're not disadvantaged in any way. Tough challenge.
It's a tough challenge. Tonight's a big night for you because tonight your former boss is taking the stage at the Democratic National Convention, Barack Obama, and talk about the reunion, because all of the Obama team is in town. We saw Valerie Jarrett was here a little bit earlier. Right. David Plouffe was here. There's others that are a part of it. What does it mean for you to come together with a crew that you ran with a couple of years back?
I have the pleasure of also having been part of the Clinton administration. Yesterday we had a reunion, 700 people who worked in the Clinton administration with the president, former president, and Secretary Hillary Clinton. So it was great. It's great. One great advantage of having been to so many conventions, you see a lot of people you don't see year-round, and so every 4 years, people who you haven't seen in 4 or 12 or 8 or 12 years come together, and it's great. And both the Obama alumni and the Clinton alumni, they have stayed engaged in service to the public, stayed engaged in politics. And the Obama Center here in Chicago, when it's finished, will be about creating the next generation of leaders and people who view public service as important to their communities.
You know, it's an easy question here in Chicago, but what made President Obama special?
You know, he caught a moment in history, let's be honest, and he said it. There was nothing about him that one would think he should be president of the United States. Okay, we had never seen anything like that. African-American man, somebody who had just gotten to the Senate for about a year and a half. But I think he touched the chord in 2004 when he gave that speech in Boston, for any of you who were there or saw it, that people said, this guy is different, this guy is special. He had the ability to touch people and make them feel, as he said, to be hopeful about the future of America. So he was fun to work with. He is a really good guy, extremely smart, has a sense of America, the good and bad of America, and the challenges and the opportunities. And so he's kind of a special guy.
Yeah, and a good basketball player too, right?
He was okay.
Did you ever play basketball with him? You don't get
a short guy like me? Are you kidding me? No, that's not my sport.
Mike Allen from Axios once wrote about you, said you're the most connected Democrat in America. And I think in Chicago, people know you and know your family, especially from the elected office and you know, serving in Chicago government. But they don't necessarily think of the Daleys as someone who's connected nationwide. What does it take to be called? First of all, do you find it accurate? And what does it take to be called the most connected Democrat in America?
I don't know, hang around a long time, maybe. No, I've had the opportunity, being back many years ago, I kind of focused around national and political or presidential politics, even when my dad was in power. You know, Hubert Humphrey, Jack Kennedy, I mean, we were around all of them. And then I traveled with Walter Mondale in 1984 on his plane for 3.5 months against Ronald Reagan. So I've stayed involved in national politics, and that's given me an opportunity to meet people, have relationships around the country. I've also worked for very large U.S. companies. I was with J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, SBC down in Texas. So on the business side, I have great relationships over the years. So I've been very fortunate, and it's given me an opportunity to see parts of America and be part of politics and business. That's pretty amazing the last 30 years.
I was going to say, one second. I think some new people came in. Hey, guys, keep it down in the back just a little bit, okay? Everybody back by the free food. Go ahead and just let us talk for just a second. All right. But, they say that there's something special. You see this in Los Angeles with television in Hollywood. A lot of Chicago people get jobs. They're connected. Once you say you're from Chicago, they want those people to be the producers, the directors, whatever it is. In politics, is it similar? Is there a Chicago ethic, a work ethic that makes you different than somebody else who might be in politics?
I think the history of Chicago and around politics, obviously the system has changed tremendously over the years, but politics has been a contact sport in Chicago, and oftentimes our real contact sports, football, doesn't do so well. So politics is sort of next to the sports teams. When they're bad, everybody goes to politics. And it's usually pretty entertaining and very contact-driven. So that's been the history of Chicago. You've had that ingrained in this city. And when you look at the makeup of the city over the years, all the immigrants who came to Chicago with all the diversity that they created, and them all trying to get into politics in different ways, that's a history in many big old cities. But Chicago kept that politics. We kept some people called it the machine. My father called it the organization. Kept that together much longer than most other cities who had that, but it died out a lot earlier than it did here.
For you mentioned your dad, and obviously we're going to bring up the 1968 convention. Yeah. As a young man, what were your thoughts at that time when that was happening, or what are your memories now? Is it positive, negative around your dad, his legacy, and what happened at the 1968 convention?
My dad was mayor for 21 years. He got elected 6 times. He got elected 2 times after 68. So the national view that this was a terrible thing for him, people in Chicago weren't quite as negative on him as some people thought.
Some people, yeah, right.
Yeah, but when you win twice by like 65 or 70% of the vote, I would say that's pretty good. I didn't have that opportunity. The one thing I say always about 1968, and to look back, especially people who weren't alive then, it was one of the most tumultuous, volatile years in the history of America. You had 500,000 young Americans sitting in Vietnam. Most people had no idea where Vietnam was. You had a president who got chased out of office. You had Martin Luther King assassinated, and then all the riots after that. You then had Bobby Kennedy assassinated. You went to Miami for the Republican convention. 6 people were killed in the riots associated with that convention. You then had in Paris youth riots. You had the Russians invade Czechoslovakia in July, and nobody did a thing. And that all rolled to Chicago. Okay, so the country boiled over in Chicago and before even 68, the change with civil rights and the cultural changes that were going on. So you can't look at that brief 3 days or the 1 day at Balboa in Michigan and think that that's the story of what was going on in America then. It wasn't. And again, it's the clips of that are terrible. Nobody liked what happened there. Everybody kind of played their part. There were people who came with legitimate reasons to disagree with the war. I will say this. Had Bobby Kennedy survived, what happened in Chicago would never have happened because he would have been the nominee of the party. And just as I think here, the demonstrations that everybody was predicting were going to happen, the air went out of the balloon when Kamala Harris became the nominee.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that? I mean, because they'll say that there's still a movement.
Well, there's a movement, but you're not, at least I haven't seen, maybe others have, 100,000 people walking down the street, which was predicted a while ago. Right. I think it's changed. There's an opportunity for something different. Again, if Robert Kennedy had been nominated, he was clearly saying he was going to end the war, and people would have said, okay, let's give him a chance. I think in a lot of the problems that we have in America right now that Vice President Harris will be the nominee and the potential president, she's saying, give me a chance to address these issues.
Let's talk about the Vice President. As someone who has raised money for the party, who has been a chief of staff in the White House, what does Kamala Harris have to do? He's going to get a bump from this great convention and everything that's happening in Chicago. But from your vantage point, what does Kamala Harris have to do to secure the White House in November? What's the path forward for the Democrat nominee?
Okay. First, she is the underdog. I mean, all this excitement, it's all great, and everybody has fun, and we're all excited. But she's the underdog. The Republican nominee will start with an electoral base that's bigger than ours. So we're always fighting over the 5-6 states. Now she has the potential to put a few other states on the table for Democrats, for her to maybe win, that weren't there 2 months ago. She's got to, I think what she has to do, and the positive and negative of a short campaign, the positive is you don't have a lot of time, and once you catch a wave like she's on now, you may be able to keep it going for a while. But I think on Thursday, she's got to tell people, and even though she's been vice president, and even though she was a senator, nobody really knows these people, okay? She's got to introduce who she is, and what are her values? How does she make a decision? How does she view life? It's not, here's my 10-point plan, and people say, oh, I don't like one, but I like two. That's BS. It's who is this person? How do they view things? President Obama came through unbelievably in 2008, and people thought, this guy is different. I get it. And he thinks through these issues. Not everyone agreed with all his positions, obviously, but he was able to convey sort of who he was and how he would govern. And that's the best you can do, because we're so divided. You're not going to say, okay, here's my position on immigration, and that's going to satisfy everyone, or even on Gaza or on Ukraine, And so I think she's got to begin in a very strong way Thursday night to tell people who she is, and that's a big challenge. But if she gets it right, she then rolls into a debate, if Trump will debate her. I don't think President Trump will want to debate her early, because if she did well at a debate with him early in September, she could maybe be like a horse to a barn and just say, I'm running to the barn and the hell with everything else.
They're debating about the debate now.
Yep.
So we can't just have a debate. We have to have a debate about a debate now. I want to switch to Chicago and first ask you about your brother.
Yep.
Obviously the 96 convention is Mayor Richard M. Daley's convention. He's retired. He's out of politics. How's he doing? And he's keeping a pretty low profile. A lot of retired mayors would be up. They'd have their, they'd be renting one of these pontoon boats to let them know they're in town. What's he doing?
He's doing great. His health is good. I talk to him every day. He's in good shape, but he has been very intentional for now 13 years. He knows what it is when people are yapping at you, and you don't appreciate the difficulty of a mayor's job. So he's kept a very low profile, and he's going to maintain that. He's been good, and we talk politics all the time, but he's around town, and you may see him. He won't do any interviews. He's not going to come here to Axios. So all due respect to Axios.
It would be great. Could you imagine you and Richie right next to each other? That'd be great. Right?
Nah, you may think so. I don't know about
Bring it back. Next time you have the dinner table convo, just bring it up.
Okay.
As an idea for the next
just have a video there. We can
that's right.
Watch us argue.
The city of Chicago now, 2024, different mayor, Mayor Brandon Johnson. Your thoughts on Brandon Johnson, and what advice would you give the mayor? That's not the question.
Look at. I know.
Why is it a groaner?
Thanks. Yep, that's true. I'm okay. Okay, that may have been it. First of all, it's the toughest job in America to be a mayor of a city. He comes from a very different background. He had not been in politics, real politics, never held elective office. Very brief with the county board, which is not really
watch out, that's John's spot.
Yeah, my brother John's on that, but it is a legislative spot, but not really a legislative spot. So his background is very different. So now he runs a $15 billion company with 60,000 employees. Very big challenge to manage that. And when you've not experienced the management of things of any size or been part of something that really was big, it's hard. And he's not spent 25 years, 30 years in coming through the system of Chicago, so that when he took over as mayor, people would say, okay, we get how he is, what he's about. And his politics, quite frankly, and he is very progressive. And the city, and he got 51% of a 35% turnout, so that's 17% of eligible voters voted for him. That's not exactly a mandate for change. And that's a challenge for a mayor. And I think a lot of politicians, I'm not speaking about the mayor here, win and think no matter what percent they win, they've got some mandate for fundamental change. And the truth of the matter is, life is about incremental change. You know, we all say we love change, but we really don't. Whether it's in your personal or your business life, you really don't like change. But we all say we do. And some people who go out for fundamental change, you got to understand, in my opinion, people don't change. You don't like to totally change who you are, most people. And so you've got to understand, especially when you run a city that's so diverse in all ways, that you've got to build coalitions. And that's hard to do when you've not been in that game.
And he only been, to be fair, only been the mayor for 2 years or a year at this point, too. So there's still time to go in the first term as well.
Yeah, but usually your best days are like the first 2 days.
I was giving you an out. I was giving you an out, Bill.
It gets more difficult. It does not get easier. It does not get easier. It gets harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, the honeymoon is,
it's over.
It's over.
All right, in our last minute, the most pivotal question for a kid from Bridgeport. Should Reinsdorf sell the White Sox?
I like Jerry Reinsdorf, but one way or the other, something's going to happen that he's going to sell it. He's not going to own it. Right. He may not sell it. Maybe his heirs sell it. That's going to happen. But I don't really care about new stadiums. How about a new team? I mean, really?
There's
Does
your
anybody
quote.
go to look at the stadium, or the food's good? But come on, you go to watch the
team.
The team. I mean, if the team's not any good. We went out, my kids went out the other night to watch the Yankees. Really, to watch the Yankees, not the White Sox. That's a terrible thing to say. Because we've had a box at Sox Park, and I've got a great picture of, in 1959, my dad was mayor and the Sox were in the World Series. And there's a picture of the box we used to have on the field. And it was my dad, Jack Kennedy, Rich, and the baseball commissioner was a guy named Happy Chandler, who was a United States Senator from Kentucky who quit to be the baseball commissioner. That's how important he thought the Senate was. But it's a famous picture. So we've had a box there for 60 years. And Bill Veck, one of the owners, said Mayor Daley was the only politician who paid for his tickets.
Bill Daley, thank you so much for coming to Axios House. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thanks.
All right, give it up for Bill Daley, y'all. Yeah. Let him hear you in Washington. Let him hear you at the United Center. Yeah. All right, we're very excited for our next guest. I'm going to introduce another great, this is an Axios political reporter. You follow him out of D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, Hans Nichols. Hans, get out here, man. Yes. Great job, man. Go get him. Go get him.
It's an incredibly tough act to follow because everyone here is from Chicago, but we have someone who can do it, and that is the former governor of Rhode Island, Gina Raimondo. Former governor, could I kindly ask you to come join me on stage? Now, this isn't going to be that awkward, but she has a current job, but because of something called the Hatch Act, we can't really talk about her current job. So we're going to couch everything in terms of Governor Raimondo. I won't ever call you Madam Secretary unless I ask you if I can call you that next year. Just a little joke. Just a little joke. Stop.
You can call me Gina. How about that?
Governor Raimondo, as someone who has faced voters and knows how to read a poll, do you believe the current polls on the Harris-Walz ticket?
So, hello, everybody. I love being in Chicago. I feel the energy. Listen, I agree with Bill that Harris is the underdog right now, and that's how we need to run this campaign. Everybody here is fired up, enthusiastic, as you should be, as am I. Go home Friday and work harder than you ever have to get her to win. Because if you have that attitude, we will win. And if we can't be drunk with excitement. What? Although I am super excited.
But you're not drunk.
I'm not drunk yet because I'm doing this interview. But I'll see you later. No, but I'm actually very, very serious. I was talking to Gretchen Whitmer earlier. I said, hey, Gretchen, I love Gretchen. I said, Gretchen, how are you feeling? And she's like, Michigan's within the margin of error. We got to get home Friday and work our asses off. And I totally, totally agree. Kamala should win, but as an elected official, look, polling is tough. We know polls are getting less and less accurate. You have to collect all kinds of data to get the accurate answer, not just one poll. But most of all, you should run like you're the underdog.
What's your metric then? What data do you look at to see? Do you like focus groups?
Yeah, like the whole package. There's no one thing. You take the poll as a data point. You take focus groups, give you the texture, huge data point. All the data that you can gather, and you put it all together. It's not as easy as it used to be. You take a poll and that's the answer. You have to collect data from a lot of different sources and put it together, and then also add your judgment. Like even in this day and age, what you're hearing on the doors matters. What people are hearing on the phones matters. It's all the texture that you have to listen to.
I'm glad you mentioned Governor Whitmer. Both of you have run for office successfully. You've probably, and I may just throw this out here, dealt with some coded and sexist attacks. What's the best way for a successful politician to respond to those coded and outright sexist and in some cases racist attacks?
It's absolutely not coded. When I was sometimes it's coded, but I was asked by journalists of publications, how are you thinking about taking care of your kids now that you're running for governor? Or I would be out at a big event as governor about to go speak, and they would say, well, who's making dinner tonight that you're here doing this? So, like, lots and lots of, I'll tell you a story. This might be coded. And every woman ever who's run for office, especially if you've run for executive office, governor, president, the thing you hear is there's just something about her. You hear it. That's coded. So when we would do focus groups, they would show people pictures of me in the focus group. And they'd be like, I don't know if I like her. There's just something about her. She's always wearing a business suit. And then they put a different picture of me and with more casual clothes. And then finally I'd be like in T-shirt and jeans. And they'd be like, I kind of like her. The less threatening you seem, the more likable you are.
Did you respond to every attack? Did you let some sort of slide?
You have to let some slide. And this is why it's so hard. I'm wearing this pin. It's about mad damn time. It's past time. Yeah, it's about damn time. You can't swing at every pitch. By the way, that's not just true of sexism or racism. Sometimes you can't swing at every pitch because then you make the story bigger. Right? And also, you can't, as a woman, appear like you're whining. It's much more effective to have somebody else call out the sexism or call out the racism. If you do it yourself, it doesn't play well. So often, you just have to take it in stride and continue to do your thing.
I'm so glad we have you here in your personal capacity. And I know in your personal capacity, you're being unvarnished. This is great. You do talk to a lot of business executives, and you've always had a bit of a fingertip feel for the economy. What are they telling you? What are you seeing out there? Because I think economic trends are going to be one of the determining factors in this election. Are you worried? Are you cautiously optimistic? What are you hearing?
What I hear from business people is they all say, don't let us go back to the chaos of Trump. Like, I do hear it. That is what I hear from business people. Some people, yes, they want to talk about their issue. How are you going to regulate crypto? How are you going to regulate this? But by and large, what I get is, please don't let us go back to that chaos. Don't let us go back to a president who's vindictive, who makes policy based on which friends he wants to get deals and who he wants to punish, who behaves in a way that makes us uncredible to the rest of the world, who wakes up one day and decides to do some policy which is wrong-headed. Fundamentally, the one thing every business person agrees on is predictability helps. Just tell me the rules and let me run my business.
So they're not overly concerned about corporate tax rates jumping, rising. That's something they can process and plan for.
I think that's right. I've never been a business person who says, tax me more, even though maybe we ought to. But I do hear this, like, God, I can't go back to that chaos. We're finally, COVID put us into the worst economic crisis, among the worst we've ever seen as a nation. We now have the strongest economy in the world. It's not perfect. Prices are still too high. But businesses are like, this is pretty good. We're growing. It's stable. Don't kick us back into chaos.
The President Biden last night mentioned COVID. You just mentioned it. What did governors get right with the passage of time, and where did you potentially misfire?
COVID was so hard for governors. Man, we just did our best, every one of us, Republican and Democrat. We didn't know what we were doing in the early days, and we tried as hard as we could. I can say unequivocally, Trump let us down. Like, it was horrible. I remember so vividly desperately calling the Trump administration for help with PPE. In the early days, remember, we couldn't get our hands on ventilators and the N95 masks. And finally, after, no joke, like 50 phone calls to the White House, to him, to the vice president, they said the truck is on the way to Rhode Island, finally. We were so happy. I got a call at midnight from my director of health, Governor, the truck of PPE arrived. And I said, oh, thank God. She said, it's empty. I said, what do you mean it's empty? Governor, they sent us an empty truck. That was the level of chaos. That's what we got from the Trump administration in terms of support. So look, I don't know, every governor did the best. One thing that we did in Rhode Island that at the time was really hard, and was hard decision for me, but in retrospect, I think was the right one, was getting the kids back to school as soon as we could. And that was hard at the time.
You had some, if I recall, you had some tough conversations with labor and with the teachers and what you thought. And how hard was it, and describe what those conversations were like?
It was very, very hard. Look, I'll be very honest with you. Now, it was obviously the right thing to do, right? We now know we could keep teachers and kids safe, and the kids who weren't in school suffered more. And I was a mom. I'm still a mom. But at the time, I was a mother of 2 teenagers who were really struggling. So I think that motivated me, like, we got to get these kids back to school. But justifiably, teachers were worried. Superintendents were worried. And so, but I felt determined to do it. And they were very tough conversations. And the teachers would come to me and say, are you sure you're going to keep us safe? I have a compromised kid. I said, yeah, I promise you we'll keep you safe, but we got to get these kids back in school.
I think I know where you're going to go with this this question, but sorry, here, let me get you a water here for the governor.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't drink from it, I promise. What, and she's going to need a big drink. What aggravates you the most about the Republican Party right now?
They just peddle bullshit.
Family-friendly show, but I think I don't know if we have a delay on this.
Lies.
I don't think anything's going to get bleeped out.
It is economic BS.
Okay, articulate that.
I ran a business. I ran a state. It's ridiculous. They claim to be the party of the economy. You explain to me how Trump's proposal to put tariffs on everything, which is like a 10 or 20% sales tax on everything, is good for the economy. It start a trade war with China, hurt businesses. We want to increase manufacturing, so we're going to put a tariff on inputs to manufacturing. It's baloney. Explain to me the fantasy math. Let's just cut taxes on the ultra-rich who've never been doing any better. Don't do a damn thing for infrastructure, job training, promoting, businesses of the future and technology. How is that going to lead to economic growth? It really drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that they peddle that baloney, and yet they're the party of the economy. That gets to me.
I think I discovered what aggravates you.
Yeah.
Can we do a speed round?
Yeah.
One word answers.
Oh, gosh.
Ballet or opera?
Ballet.
Why?
My daughter dances ballet. She dances with the Washington Ballet, and we love Swan Lake. It's our fave, and I love ballet.
Do you find parental controls on smartphones baffling?
We need more. Like, I'm for parental.
I can't figure them out. That's I'm looking.
Oh, yes. I'll give you yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever met the
I need a kill switch.
Have you ever met the Dalai Lama?
I have not.
Okay.
I would love to.
I'm just helping future profile writers out to fill out the overall portrait of Governor Raimondo. Are you ever going to run for president?
Sounds like yes.
Kamala Harris is going to be our next president.
Will your signature ever be on U.S. currency?
No.
No.
I don't know.
Ruling out Treasury Secretary.
I don't know. These are ridiculous one-word question answers.
Okay. Well, we'll do a little more fulsome one. In your Rhodes Scholar era, how many people ran for office? How many people won?
Yeah.
Who was the most ambitious and who was the most irritating?
Oh, that's not fair. Who's the most irritating?
Okay, who's the most ambitious?
There were lots. You know, it's interesting. We were chatting backstage. So many. I was in 93. So, of course, I ran. Bobby Jindal. Remember him? Bobby Jindal, Eric Garcetti, Cory Booker, Chrystia Freelander, all in my era. I love them all. That's a tough one. Most ambitious? I don't know. There might be a tie between Bobby and Eric.
This was meant to be a one-word question. I
Oh.
forgot it, but can I still ask it? Do we still
Yeah.
have time? Okay, thank you. Favorite cocktail?
Martini.
And with that, we wish everyone a good evening. Thank you very much for joining us at Axios
Go,
House.
Kamala!
And I think that's it. So, Governor, thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay.
Be nice.
Okay.
The Democratic Party is supporting